Your brother says you'll be bankrupt by Christmas. Those words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest, spoken casually by my own supplier while unloading boxes of produce at the back door of my restaurant. But here's the thing, it was March, and I had just secured a deal that would triple my locations within 18 months. What kind of brother actively campaigns for your destruction while smiling at Sunday dinner? My name is Marcus Webb, and 3 years ago, I was standing in the kitchen of my restaurant, Ember and Oak, watching my life's work slowly suffocate. The dining room that used to buzz with energy now echoed with emptiness. Tables that once required reservations weeks in advance sat gathering dust. I remember gripping the edge of my prep station so hard my knuckles turned white, wondering how everything had fallen apart so fast. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this all began, to the moment I first realized that the enemy destroying my dream wasn't the economy, wasn't bad luck, wasn't even the competition down the street. It was my own flesh and blood. My older brother, Vincent. The brink of collapse, a family betrayal. Ember and Oak opened in downtown Austin 6 years ago. I poured everything into that place, my savings, my 401k, a second mortgage on my condo. Every single penny I had went into those brick walls, that custom wood-fired oven, those handcrafted tables my grandfather helped me build before he passed. The first 2 years were magic. We were featured in Texas Monthly. Food critics called us a revelation in modern American comfort cuisine. I hired 12 staff members and still couldn't keep up with demand. My mother cried happy tears at the grand opening, telling everyone who would listen that her baby boy had made it. Vincent stood in the corner that night, champagne in hand, smile plastered across his face. I thought he was proud of me. I thought wrong. See, Vincent had always been the golden child. 4 years older, Ivy League educated, corner office at a prestigious consulting firm downtown. Growing up, I lived in his shadow. When I announced I was dropping out of business school to attend Culinary Institute, my father nearly disowned me. Vincent was the one who convinced him to give me a chance. Let Marcus chase his little dream, he'd said at that family dinner. He'll figure out soon enough that passion doesn't pay the bills. I should have heard the condescension then. But I was too grateful, too naive. The trouble started slowly, so gradually I didn't notice the pattern until it was almost too late. Around year 3, things began to shift. Reservations started dropping. Regular customers stopped coming. I'd hear whispers, secondhand comments from friends, offhand remarks from vendors. I heard you're having health code issues. Someone told me your head chef quit because of a roach problem. Didn't your liquor license get suspended? None of it was true. Not a single word. But the rumors spread like wildfire through Austin's tight-knit food scene. I spent months chasing ghosts, trying to figure out where these lies were coming from. Then came the helpful advice from Vincent. He started showing up more often, always with suggestions. Maybe you should cut your staff, Marcus. The overhead is killing you. Have you considered cheaper suppliers? Quality doesn't matter when you're hemorrhaging money. Perhaps it's time to think about selling before you lose everything. Like an idiot, I listened. I cut 3 servers. I switched to a lower quality meat distributor. I scaled back our menu. Each decision chipped away at what made Ember and Oak special. And the more I struggled, the more Vincent appeared, concern painted across his face, another piece of advice ready on his lips. The financial problems came next. Mysterious charges appeared on my business accounts. Small amounts at first, a few hundred here, 1,000 there. My accountant chalked it up to vendor disputes and administrative errors. We were so busy putting out fires that no one thought to look closer. I remember one night, alone in the restaurant after closing, sitting at the bar with a glass of whiskey, wondering if Vincent was right. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this. Maybe I should just sell what was left and go back to cooking for someone else. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from my cousin Derek, heads up, Vincent's been telling people you're 3 months behind on rent. Dad heard it at the golf club. I wasn't behind on rent. I'd never missed a payment in 6 years. Something cold settled in my stomach. I started making calls. Quietly. Carefully. I reached out to old friends in the industry, vendors I'd worked with for years, anyone who might have heard these rumors firsthand. The trail always led back to the same source. Every single time. But I still didn't have proof. Not until 3 weeks later. I'd come back to the restaurant late one night. I'd forgotten my laptop and needed to update payroll. The lights were off, but I could see a glow coming from my office in the back. My office that should have been locked. I crept through the dark kitchen, my heart pounding so loud I was sure whoever was in there could hear it. The door was cracked open just enough for me to see inside. Vincent sat at my desk, my computer open in front of him, phone pressed to his ear. No, he's completely clueless, he was saying, laughing softly. Another few months and he'll be begging to sell. I've already got the investor lined up. We flip the property, split the profit, and Marcus never even knows what happened. He'll blame the economy like everyone else. I stood frozen in that doorway, barely breathing, as my brother laid out his entire scheme to whoever was on the other end of that call. He'd been the one feeding rumors to the food bloggers. He'd been the one whispering to my suppliers that I was a credit risk. Those mysterious charges? He'd gotten access to my accounts through our shared family accountant, our uncle, who trusted Vincent implicitly. He wasn't trying to help me. He was engineering my failure so he could swoop in, buy the property at a fraction of its value, and profit from my destruction. My own brother. The man who stood beside me at our father's funeral. The man whose kids called me Uncle Marcus and begged me to make them chocolate chip pancakes every Christmas morning. I backed away from that door without making a sound. I drove home in a daze. And I sat in my dark apartment until sunrise, rage and heartbreak warring in my chest, making a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. I was going to let him keep digging his own grave. And then I was going to bury him in it. The unconventional rebirth, a calculated risk. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. Vincent thought I was beaten. He thought I was too stupid to see what was happening right in front of my face. He was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. First, I needed to stop the bleeding. I quietly changed all my account passwords. I hired a new accountant, someone completely outside the family. I installed security cameras in my office without telling anyone, including my staff. Then I started studying the market with fresh eyes. Austin was booming, but downtown was oversaturated with restaurants. Everyone was fighting for the same customers in the same neighborhoods. But the suburbs were exploding with young families who had money to spend and nowhere good to spend it. Cedar Park, Round Rock, Pflugerville. These communities were growing faster than anywhere else in Texas, and their dining options were chain restaurants and fast food. What if I brought Ember and Oak to them? The idea seemed crazy at first. Conventional wisdom said you expand from strength, not weakness. You don't open a second location when your first is struggling. Every business book, every mentor, every expert would tell you to stabilize before you grow. But I wasn't playing by conventional rules anymore. I was playing to win. I found a space in Cedar Park, a former steakhouse that had closed during the pandemic. The building was beautiful, exposed brick, soaring ceilings, a patio that overlooked a small creek. The landlord was desperate to fill it and offered me terms that made my jaw drop. The catch? I needed capital. And banks weren't exactly lining up to fund the expansion of a failing restaurant. This is where things got creative. I reached out to Maria Castellanos, an old culinary school friend who had become a successful restaurant investor in Houston. I laid everything out for her, the sabotage, the scheme, my plan to fight back. She listened without interrupting, then asked me one question. Do you still believe in your food, Marcus? More than anything, I said. Then I'm in. Maria didn't just write a check. She connected me with other investors who were tired of the same corporate restaurant concepts. Within 6 weeks, I had enough funding to not only open the Cedar Park location but to completely renovate the downtown space. The next few months were the hardest of my life. I was working 20-hour days, 7 days a week. I'd finish dinner service downtown, then drive 30 minutes to Cedar Park to oversee construction until midnight. I lost 15 pounds. I survived on coffee and adrenaline. But something else was happening too. Something I hadn't expected. The downtown location started improving. With fresh ingredients from new suppliers with staff who were energized by the secret plans I'd shared with my most trusted employees, with a renewed sense of purpose driving every dish that left the kitchen, Ember and Oak was coming back to life. The first 5-star review came in August. Then another in September. By October, we had a waitlist again. And Vincent had no idea. He was still making his calls, still spreading his lies, still waiting for me to collapse. But now I was documenting everything. Every rumor traced back to him. Every suspicious transaction flagged and recorded. Every piece of evidence carefully preserved for the right moment. I even let him keep giving me advice. I'd sit across from him at family dinners, nodding along as he suggested I consider bankruptcy, all while knowing that our Cedar Park location was 2 weeks from opening. The anticipation was almost unbearable. But I waited. Because this wasn't just about saving my restaurant anymore. This was about justice. Weaponizing growth, the strategy unfolds. Here, that's something they don't teach you in business school. Sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation. It's success so undeniable that your enemies are forced to watch you win. I hired a marketing consultant named Brianna Foster, a sharp woman who had built her career turning around damaged brands. When I explained my situation, she didn't blink. We're not going to address the rumors directly, she said. That just amplifies them. Instead, we're going to make them irrelevant. Our strategy was simple: let the food speak for itself. We started an Instagram campaign featuring behind-the-scenes content from both locations. Happy staff. Fresh ingredients. Packed dining rooms. Nothing defensive, nothing aggressive, just undeniable evidence of a thriving business. The response was immediate. Food bloggers who had written us off started reaching out. Local news picked up the story of a hometown restaurant expanding during tough economic times. The narrative began to shift. But I wasn't ready to reveal everything yet. Because I knew Vincent was watching. And I knew the bigger I let his lies grow, the harder he would fall when the truth came out. In November, I got a call that changed everything. A representative from a major restaurant group wanted to meet. They were impressed by our expansion and wanted to discuss a potential partnership, helping us franchise Ember and Oak across Texas. It was more than I had ever dreamed. And it was the final piece of my plan. I scheduled the announcement for December 15th. A press event at the new Cedar Park location. Media, investors, industry leaders, everyone who mattered would be there. And I made sure Vincent received a personal invitation. The unmasking, a public reckoning. The night before the press event, I barely slept. Not from nerves, from anticipation. I arrived at Cedar Park early to oversee the setup. White tablecloths. Champagne towers. A banner that read Ember and Oak, a new chapter. Everything was perfect. Guests started arriving at 6. Maria flew in from Houston. Brianna brought her whole team. Food critics, journalists, even a crew from a local news station. The energy in the room was electric. And then Vincent walked in. I watched him scan the crowd, confusion flickering across his face. This wasn't what he expected. This wasn't a struggling brother begging for help. This was a celebration. I approached him with a smile. Vincent. So glad you could make it. Marcus, what is all this? He gestured at the packed room. I heard things weren't going well. Funny, I said, keeping my voice light. I've heard that rumor too. Let's discuss it during the presentation. I left him standing there, a glass of champagne growing warm in his hand, as I made my way to the small stage we'd set up near the bar. The room quieted as I tapped the microphone. Thank you all for being here tonight, I began. 3 years ago, I stood in the kitchen of my original restaurant, wondering if I would survive another month. Rumors were spreading. Business was declining. People I trusted were telling me to give up. I paused, finding Vincent's face in the crowd. He had gone pale. But I want to share something with you tonight. Something I've never told anyone publicly. I clicked the remote in my hand, and a screen behind me lit up with financial documents. These are the actual records from Ember and Oak's past 3 years. Revenue, expenses, profit margins, all verified by independent auditors. The numbers were strong. Better than strong. Even during our worst months, we had been profitable. The failure had been an illusion. Now, I want to show you something else. Another click. Phone records. Bank statements. Screenshots of social media posts. These documents show the source of every negative rumor spread about my restaurant over the past 2 years. Every fake review. Every whispered lie to suppliers and investors. Every attempt to sabotage a business that never needed saving. I let the silence hang in the air. The source was the same every time. Someone who had access to my accounts. Someone who knew my schedule, my vendors, my vulnerabilities. Someone who was supposed to be family. I didn't say his name. I didn't have to. Every head in that room turned toward Vincent. He stood frozen, champagne glass still in hand, face the color of ash. Tonight, I'm announcing that Ember and Oak will be expanding to 5 new locations across Texas over the next 2 years, in partnership with hospitality group Meridian Ventures. We're also launching a culinary training program for at-risk youth in underserved communities. Applause erupted, but I wasn't finished. I want to thank everyone who believed in me when belief was hard. And I want to offer a lesson I learned the hard way. The people trying to tear you down are often the ones standing closest to you. Success isn't just about building something great. It's about protecting it from those who would destroy it for their own gain. I stepped off the stage to thunderous applause. Vincent was gone. He had slipped out the back door somewhere during my speech, unable to face the consequences of his actions. My mother found me a few minutes later, tears streaming down her face. Marcus, I had no idea. Your brother? I can't believe. Neither could I, Mom. Neither could I. The rest of the night was a blur of handshakes, congratulations, and interviews. But the moment I remember most clearly came near the end, when the crowd had thinned and I found myself standing alone in the Cedar Park kitchen. This space that hadn't existed 6 months ago. This dream that was supposed to die. This victory that tasted sweeter than any dish I had ever created. I'd done it. Not just survived, but triumphed. And I'd done it on my own terms. Reclaiming my narrative, the future is mine. The fallout was swift and brutal. Within a week, Vincent's firm had launched an internal investigation based on anonymous tips that turned out to be very well-documented evidence packages sent to their ethics board. His access to client accounts was suspended pending review. Within a month, he was quietly let go. No golden parachute. No glowing recommendation letter. Just a cardboard box and a security escort to the parking garage. Our family was torn apart, and I won't pretend that didn't hurt. My mother tried to play peacemaker, but some betrayals are too deep for Sunday dinners and birthday cards. Vincent and I haven't spoken since that night in Cedar Park. I doubt we ever will again. But here's the thing about justice, it's rarely clean. It doesn't wrap up neatly like a movie. There are casualties. There is grief. There is the strange, hollow feeling of winning a war you never wanted to fight. What I've gained, though, is something I never expected. Freedom. Real, genuine freedom from caring what anyone else thinks about my path. I built Ember and Oak because I loved cooking. I loved feeding people. I loved the look on someone's face when they took a bite of something that made them close their eyes and smile. Somewhere along the way, I'd forgotten that. I'd gotten so wrapped up in the numbers, the reviews, the opinions of people who had never sweated over a hot stove at midnight, I'd lost touch with why I started. Vincent's betrayal, as devastating as it was, gave me that back. When you've been stabbed in the back by your own brother, the criticism of strangers loses its power. When you've rebuilt from ashes, the fear of failure becomes almost laughable. Today, Ember and Oak has 7 locations across Texas. We employ over 200 people. Our culinary training program has graduated 63 students, many of whom have gone on to open their own restaurants. I still cook. Every Saturday night, I'm in the kitchen of our original downtown location, working the line alongside my team. Some things are too important to delegate. And every time I plate a dish, every time I hear the satisfied murmur of a dining room full of happy guests, every time a young cook asks me for advice about following their dreams, I think about that night in my dark office watching my brother plot my destruction. I think about how close I came to giving up. And I think about what I would tell anyone facing their own Vincent. Their own saboteur. Their own betrayal by someone who was supposed to love them. Don't confront. Don't react. Don't give them the satisfaction of seeing your pain. Instead, build. Create. Succeed so spectacularly that their lies become absurd. Let your growth be your answer. Let your success be your revenge. Because that's what I learned. The best way to silence someone who wants you to fail isn't to argue with them. It's to win. If you faced betrayal from someone close to you, if you've been told your dreams are impossible, if you're standing in your own dark kitchen wondering if it's time to give up, I want you to know something. It's not. It's never time to give up. Not when the only person who truly knows your worth is you. Build your empire. Prove them wrong. And when you're standing at the top, looking down at everyone who tried to keep you small, that's when you'll understand what I mean. That's when you'll know exactly why the best revenge is living well. And thriving.